We're going to have the power to tell corporations, no, we have the right through the democratic process to set the policies that determine our lives. Move to Amend itself as a coalition of groups that came together after Citizens United with the express intention of amending the U.S. Constitution to clearly establish that only living persons are entitled to constitutional rights and that money is not the same as speech.
We are willing to do the work that it's going to take to amend our Constitution to clearly establish that only human beings are entitled to constitutional rights. Well, I just want to acknowledge the role that WILPF played in the formation of our local Los Angeles Move to Amend group. Well, I first found out about the issue of corporate constitutional rights when I saw a documentary film called The Corporation. I don't know how many people, it was a Canadian documentary made a few years ago that basically made the case that the corporation has become the predominant social institution of our lives, really controlling so many aspects of and the decisions and the whole structure of our lives. And making the connection, well, it basically compares it to if the idea that corporations gain these constitutional rights, these rights of human beings. And if a corporation is a person, what kind of a person is it? And it goes on to take the Diagnostical Statistical Manual, which is the manual that psychologists use to diagnose mental illness, and it actually goes through the definition point by point of a psychopath. And it proves, and it makes a really good case, to a 2.5-hour long documentary that that we're being ruled by these psychopathic institutions. And this was really terrifying for me. And the issue that would bring me to tears was the issue of the environment and the environmental destruction and climate change. And this was back in maybe the late 90s, and I'd read these stories about how the world is hurtling to this catastrophe of and I just felt so sad for the future generations. And didn't know how to stop it. And then when I saw that documentary, I realized that really it's the predominance of this corporate form that puts profit over people and makes decisions based on what's in the best interest of their shareholders, and just uses the earth to turn into profits that really needs to be stopped. And so I understood that one of the ways that that they have gained this power is through this idea of corporate constitutional rights. And that, so I got on the internet trying to figure out, what can I do about this? And that's when I found the workshop that Anne was teaching that was sponsored by WILPF and Move to Amend. And so I went to Anne's workshop. I heard the in-depth story of how corporations gained constitutional rights, and I was so inspired by it. That at the end, when we said, we want to keep this going, or who wants to keep this going, I put my hand up and I offered my home, and then a lot of the people I see here in the room, we were part of that initial group, and we started meeting, and so really it was amazing. It was only 9 months that we started meeting. We organized ourselves. We ended up getting a resolution for the LA City Council, which was our specific first goal. We wanted to get the LA City Council to pass a resolution calling on Congress to amend the Constitution, to revoke corporate constitutional rights, and establish that money's not the same as speech. And so all of us together, we managed to accomplish that. And on December 6th, people in this room, supporting it, was the first major city to pass a resolution calling on Congress to amend the Constitution. So it was really dramatic. And right after that, New York City, and the other thing I'd say is we were able to create a national story around that, and that also came from some of the volunteers who knew how to do that. And so we made the story about it being the first major city. We created that. So New York City, a couple weeks later, followed suit. They heard about it, and their city council passed it. Now there's resolutions being introduced all over the United States. On Sunday, the Democratic Municipal Officials, which is an organization that Eric Garcetti is the president of, he put me in contact with, they're going to be voting about endorsing the resolution on a national level. And so I'm hoping that there's going to be thousands of resolutions passed then in the next 2 to 3 months. But really, Anne and the initial group, Grace, Joyce, Sheila, and then also I want to acknowledge Dorothy Reich, who was an amazing support all along the way too. She didn't come to the meetings because she had a lot of her own meetings that were happening. But she also helped connect me with Dylan Radican now, who's at another national organization that they've started that has a national platform around this issue called United Republic, who I'm working with too as now. And so the whole thing is really snowballing. But it all started with WILPF, your 10-part study group, and the people who really formulated the story of corporate constitutional rights and why it's important that we fight to overturn those. So I just want to thank you, and I just want to say, your work is paying off, has paid off, and will continue to pay off. So thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here.